around erectile dysfunction and premature ejaculation. It's crazy at me. Like, she went to town. She was like, "You're a fucking pervert. You're a creep. Stop doing that."
I know that's probably taken time, right, and through therapy, and it's not obvious to us that something like that, how that can impact our performance in the bedroom and us.
Basic evidence of our thoughts create our reality in our body and in our external. About performance anxiety, Carl, tell us firstly what you specialize in and what this area of work means for you.
Yeah, so I suppose as an overview, I would say I specialize in guys that deal with performance anxiety in the bedroom. And how I got into this is my own personal experience. I really struggled as a teenager and through a lot of my 20s overall, searching for answers in the conventional route, going to doctors, psychologists, counselors, etc. And none of it really helped. So it was a real road of self-discovery and self-awareness and growing as a man internally, which what helped me overcome it, and now helping other guys overcome it.
What was how did this whole situation occur? Is there a pivotal moment in your life where it began?
There's a few experiences that happened as a teenager, when I was a teenager. I'll try and mention one that I haven't mentioned too much before on podcasts. One time, so there was a specific role model in my life, right, who I used to look up to. And I used to see him grabbing women's boobs, grabbing their arse. And this person was a good bit older than me as well. And keep in mind, this is in the 90s, early noughties. So I'm looking at this cool dude, my perception of a cool dude, and I'm like, fuck, right. All the girls are laughing and joking when he grabs their boob or grabs their arse. So that must be the right thing to do. Now, I'm assuming that the girls were just so uncomfortable when he done it that they just laughed at it or laughed it off. But I couldn't see that at the time. So I'm like 11, 12 years old, and the girls in my primary school start growing boobs. And I'm like, oh, right, okay. And I remember we were playing a game of soccer one day, and we'd be getting like and tumbling, and I'd be getting close to them, and I'd be like grabbing their boob and pulling away. And I remember thinking, like, fuck, those things feel really good. And it's like, I want to do this more.
Okay.
But I kept doing it, and I kept doing it. And then one day, anyway, this girl, she just went crazy at me. Like, she went to town. She was like, "You're a fucking pervert. You're a creep. Stop doing that." She called me every name under the sun in front of what I perceived to be the whole primary school. And I was really humiliated then. I was really embarrassed. And I remember walking away down around the corner and almost wanting to cry, just being like super, super in my own world, overwhelmed by this emotion. Because it went from like this thing that felt really good to this like horrendous state. So that was one of the experiences. There was numerous ones that made me start to believe that sexual arousal is bad. Maybe I didn't have those words for it back then, but I was like, I'm not allowed to enjoy this feeling. And usually that experience, though, the ways I was expressing it weren't ideal, but eventually over time I was like, this is bad. Erections are sexual arousal is bad.
Yeah. Wow. And I mean, as a child, that she was kind of courageous to say something. Because at that time, again, in that era, you didn't say anything. Like you just sort of put up with it. Or I remember that like there was this mentality that if that happened to you, that should be a compliment. But in my head, I just think, there's that discomfort there. So I guess
that's probably why the women who I seen this person doing it to, they were just laughing it off, and they probably didn't have the courage to tell this person to stop.
Yeah, definitely. Do you have any questions, Anita? As I ramble in?
I think what comes up for me in that is really seeing how, you telling that story may spark some, something for a lot of
basic evidence of our thoughts create our reality.
It's not being able to maybe, sustain a erection or anything like that. It's just amazing to hear these snippets of stories that lead to something that we could never necessarily join the dots had we not done the work. So yeah, it's great to be sharing this stuff.
Yeah. Because as I said, there was so many of those experiences that I had to join the dots to as I got older. When I was teenage years and 20s, I would never have thought twice that they were related. But looking back now, it makes complete sense. It's like that's when my sexual journey started, let's say, or my puberty journey. That was when things started to change in my body. So it was like I nipped it in the butt straight away. It's like, that's bad. You're not allowed to do that. Express those feelings or allow yourself to enjoy those feelings, which, as you said, manifested down the line of not being able to perform at all in the bedroom.
And so was this an anchor for you for the rest of your journey? Did it keep coming up where you prevented yourself from having pleasure and prevented yourself from progressing in the bedroom?
I would say there was a push-pull happening internally for me, because as I got older, I realized that I should be getting an erection and I should be performing X way in the bedroom. But because I'd learned at an early age, unconsciously, that it was quote unquote wrong, there was one part of me that's like, I should be this way. Oh, I should be getting hard and I should be this way. But the other part of me was scared shitless because it remembered what it felt like when I did allow myself to enjoy those feelings.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. And what was the turning point? Like, when did you suddenly stop and go, I need to do this work. I need to figure out what's going on?
I there was lots of times throughout those 15 years where I searched for answers. I remember going to the doctor when I was 17. I started going to therapy when I was maybe early 20s. Numerous times throughout the years, I was constantly looking for answers. I would say it wasn't until my late 20s where I had the realization that I wasn't broken, that it was psychological. For at least 10 years, I was thinking that there was something chemically wrong, that I was genuinely completely broken. Wasn't
Wow.
I was wired differently, all these thoughts, and that actually led me to give up drinking, because when I was hungover, then especially after a night that I was with a girl that I didn't perform, like the depression and the anxiety afterwards because of the self-critical thoughts was horrendous. But leading back to your question, I suppose when I figured out that it was a psychological block and it was nervous system related and it was safety related, then I could work more towards the understanding was done, but actually embodying that arousal in my body, and also noticing the thoughts. The thoughts were a massive component of it. Like, even those thoughts of I'm fucked up, I'm broken, I'm wired wrong, they were reconfirming to my body that I was broken. It's like, whether you think you are or you aren't, you're right. So it was really rewiring those thoughts, and for a while I had to just accept that, okay, this is the way I am currently, and not and when I stopped resisting it a bit after, over time, then it started to naturally happen naturally.
What was there a defining moment for you where you decided to get help? Like, what was it? Were you already in coaching? Were you already starting to be aware of thoughts and the nervous system that made you join the dots together? What was it that made you go
It made me go to which,
to looking into this more around sex?
well, the pain of it all along that time was just so, it was at the forefront of my mind every single day, and that's not an exaggeration. Every single day I used to think about it. If, as I said, when I was drinking and hungover, I could have thousands of thoughts about it the following day, just constant. I was always thinking about fixing it or somehow getting help. And that pain was just what was constantly driving me towards looking for more answers.
And so what was the first thing that you did, like, in terms of the psychological aspect of it? What was the first part of the work?
as I said, when I was around 21, I went to therapy, but the therapy wasn't great. Maybe I just wasn't ready for it. And then I done a bit of hypnotherapy when I was maybe 25, 26. That didn't really work. Then I suppose when I came into the coaching room, that was probably a big change as well in me looking at how I was creating this reality for myself. And then we done a bit of coaching, which I found super beneficial as well, because it was actually through our coaching that I uncovered some of those and delved a bit deeper into those teenage experiences. And then I was working with another guy then who done a lot of somatic work with me. And that was all about getting into the body as opposed to constantly being in the head.
Yeah. So it's a bit like once you started to realize the other aspects of your psychology, as you said, you started, working with the coaching room, that then opened you up to the possibility of the stuff that you may not have learned in your therapy previously.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I wasn't, it wasn't a defining moment, but it was definitely around, working with the coaching room, working with yourself, and understanding how powerful those thoughts were. Because even though looking back in hindsight, it's easy to see that it was the thoughts that were driving my experience. Because if I was relaxed with a girl who I was comfortable with, I would work. Whereas if I wasn't relaxed, it wouldn't work. So at the time, I couldn't see it. I was just so lost in it. I was just like, fuck.
Which is completely normal, right? And this is why I asked that, because if I remember my own experience, so prior to meeting my long-term ex, I had never had an orgasm, and I met him at 26. And the label I put on it before I'd even started doing any of this work was that I trusted him. I felt safe. But the part that I didn't know, which is what you're talking about, is the intricacies of the self-talk that would have been playing previously that would have stopped that. Because otherwise I'm just safe, and I feel safe, and I feel like I trust him. But what we're not still paying attention to, or taught to pay attention to, is the actual intricacies of the wording that we are saying to ourselves as we may be judging ourselves and all the rest of it. So it makes sense that once you started going into the coaching type work, that was bringing you into the attention of your self-talk, which would then translate into what might I be doing to myself in the bedroom as I do it everywhere else in life as well, kind of thing. So I love that. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
And I guess, like, both of you saying feeling safe, do you both find that in your lives, if you're not feeling safe, you withdraw? Is that part of this? Is there a tendency to shut? Is there a tendency safety when you're safe with someone and relaxed, you feel you don't have a problem letting go? I wonder, in your life, when you are feeling not safe in, like, with people, or whatever the environment might be, do you shut down? Do you withdraw? Is there an internal recoil that happens naturally? Is that part of? I don't know the answer. I wonder.
Yeah, I would say, like, the driving emotion behind both the experiences that you asked about is anxiety. So let's use the example of public speaking versus talking to 2 or 3 friends. Like, if we can talk to 2 or 3 friends and the body stays relaxed, the nervous system stays relaxed, we can get our words out and we can just express. We're in the moment, where we're not thinking about what's that person going to think about this word and what's that person going to think about that. Versus when we're public speaking and there's numerous people there that we don't know, it's feeling less safe. It's feeling more vulnerable. So again, the anxiety is going to drive our experience a lot more, rather than the previous moment where it's just, there's no reason to feel a threat. And in both of those situations, there is no threat really, other than to the ego. But I heard something recently, well, a few years ago, the ego is the arch enemy of the male erection. And I was like, fuck, that's so true. Because we want to be seen in a
Put it on a t-shirt.
Intimacy rewired, the ego is the
yeah
love it.
I love that, because in
Wow.
theory, it should be the opposite. In theory, it's all about ego, right? In terms of the masculine, but it's actually the opposite, as you said there. So yeah, we can often get that one confused.
Yeah. Well, for some,
Yeah.
probably
Wow.
is, and they've managed to create that meaning for themselves that it is about their masculinity, and this is how they show up, and it
Yeah.
works for them that way. So, but
Yeah.
it's, for other people, they can't help the fact that they've wired themselves the other way, and now the ego is actually preventing them from getting an erection.
Mm. So the
Totally.
reason I asked that question about like behavioral pattern is because for me, I don't find public speaking scary. I don't get that feeling. I don't get those. Actually, I feel extremely present. No thought. So when something comes up in a situation, I'm one that wants to explore it. I want to talk about it. I want to fix it. I want to, and I'm not one to go, I'm feeling anxious or what, I want to pull away. I want to go, hold on. Okay. Why aren't we connecting? What's the conversation? Da, 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 da. I'm right in there, which will lead me to my next statement of, well, I've been with men who this situation occurred and their first reaction was to blame me. And
Interesting.
we use the word blame. And I really wanted to unpack like obviously I knew it's not my own fault because I
So
wasn't
how were they
dissecting his
blaming you?
brain.
Yeah, what were they saying to you?
Um,
We just understand what blame. Yeah, what was that blame?
Well, when the situation occurred, I guess my first thing was like, okay, are you okay? Is everything okay? And then having, oh yeah, it's you. You're just putting a lot of pressure on me. I'm like, whoa, what? I could not process that language. And, there's been other times in my youth where that's happened. And I've said, oh, is it me? And they've gone, no, no, no. And I was like, okay, because I was confused by the whole situation. And then in turn, they've gone, oh, yeah, it's you. You just, like, do you know what I mean? Like, and I get that that's just deflecting and projection. But why is it so big and shameful that men won't talk about it with the person they're with? And I mean, these were partners, so that's why I'm saying, well, there was rapport there, so the discussion could be had.
Yeah. Do you want to go on that one, Anita? Or?
Well, I mean, it's an under responsibility, right? So it's regardless of whether it's in the bedroom or it's elsewhere. What do we do as humans? We like to tend to blame because it would be too hard to, potentially admit any liability in it. So it's either projection like that, or it could be that, I don't know, there's been, lots of situations that I've heard of where the man might say it's because I wasn't attracted to her, for example, which could be true, but it might not be true. So deflection is something that we do, as humans anyway. So I would, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, I first of all, thanks for sharing that, Candice, because that's quite vulnerable.
Thanks.
And I've never actually said that to a girl. I've never blamed the girl because I knew it was a pattern for me. But I can see why guys would make themselves feel better by blaming the girl. I actually remember a few years ago, a guy, a coach that I was working with, actually, he said to me after we had a session, and I was struggling with this at the time, he said, don't worry, by the way, he said, I've been in your situation. I used to go to prostitutes and I couldn't get an erection. And then I'd be like, hey, what are you doing? You're not doing your job. And he said, he framed that to me by saying, I know how you feel and I've been there. And I'm like, oh, fuck, I haven't been there. I haven't blamed the prostitute.
Wow.
But then I was like, yeah, I remember that stuck with me for some reason. I was like, why would he blame the person that he was with? And I would imagine, yeah, it's just complete protection. If man can blame the person, then he can tell himself, oh, it wasn't me. It's because there's something wrong with them. So it's a mechanism to keep their ego feeling good. Whereas if they were to go home and say to themselves, I'm broken or I'm fucked up or whatever else might go on internally, that would be more damaging.
Yeah. And I think it's just, and I get it, because it doesn't matter how evolved the man is or what work they're doing, who they are, whether they're a coach, whatever. At the end of the day, I find if you're projecting or blaming, and I wonder if there's an undercurrent of resentment towards women. Do you think that's something that occurs in situations like this?
Potentially. Like it's really hard to say.
It's interesting that you didn't have that as an anchor. Like you didn't take that girl in that moment, shaming you or rejecting you and create a whole story around women.
Yeah. If any, then I had the opposite experience. So the first few years that it was happening to me, I would kind of just brush it under the carpet and not say anything, and it would be really awkward, and we'd just never see each other again. But then, as I started to get help on
Yeah.
the situation, and the people I was asking for help were saying that just be open and communicate it, and I started to be honest, and that went in my favor so much more. Like one girl even said to me, "Thank you so much for telling me that. I like you even more so now than I did before." And in my mind, I was like, "What the hell? Why would you like me even more?" But it was the vulnerability and just being honest, as opposed to if I hadn't said anything, again, it would probably just be awkward. She'd start blaming herself, which is actually what a few girls said to me before, like, "Oh, thank you so much for saying that. I was actually blaming myself before you told me." But then once I was open about it, it's like, oh, okay, it's not a big deal.
Yeah, and I think this is just what you said there. I think whatever our reaction is, it feeds into our personality, our personalities. So whether we're going to be resentful, whether we're going to blame, whether we're not going to say anything, depends on the personality structure. So whatever we're already bringing into the scenario, we are putting out. So if something goes wrong, we reach for our own, our own lenses that we learnt in childhood that we view the world through. So if we're going to be high and blame, then we're going to blame the woman or ourselves. If we're judgmental of ourselves, if we're a nice guy, a peacemaker type, we're not going to say anything. If we're a girl, let's say that has self-worth issues, she's going to go away and potentially blame herself for it. I'm not worthy for him to want to have sex with me. So I think a lot of this stuff, it just plays into our programs and our patterns. And I think that's the beauty of the work that you're doing, because you get to explore that with your clients, right? And see what else is underlying from our childhood that plays into these situations.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Is it with your work you're doing with your clients, I'm just asking a generalizing question. Would you say it's always a pivotal interaction with a female, like the situations occurred where it comes around shame? Is shame the primary driver, would you say?
Is it the driver for it to keep happening? I would say anxiety first. Yeah. So generally, like if I was to say a pattern of what generally happens, whether someone is a teenager, whether in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, there's normally a pivotal moment where intimate experience doesn't go to plan. So, for example, someone might be in their 30s and they've been married for 15 years, and now all of a sudden they get divorced. And up until this point, they've only been with the one person. And now they're going out into the big bad world, all these strange women dating, and then all of a sudden they realized, what's going on? Like I'm not working anymore. And then they go into the self-talk of, fuck, I'm only 35. I thought this wasn't supposed to happen until I was 50, which is also a bit of a myth as well, because it just, when it happens to somebody that's 50 or 60, it just means that they've had longer experience without any problems before the initial problem occurs. It's not really to do 90% of the time, it's not to do with the person's age. Sometimes there can be medical stuff like blood pressure, diabetes, but it's rare in my experience. Most men, 50, 60, 70 are still getting an erection during the night, which means that mechanically everything is working. It's just when they're awake and there's more nerves and anxiety, then it's not working. So going back to there's normally a catalyst, an event, and then the person starts to spiral. Because for most, we've been taught from a young age, mostly from our teenage friends, that in order to be a man, you have to be an animal in the bed. And then watching porn on top of that too, a guy pounding a girl for like an hour, comparing that, and then all of a sudden the guy's dick isn't working at all. It's like, well, I'm no longer a real man. And it gets into the identity and it really starts to spiral.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, there's so many factors that are going into the human experience. And I think what's interesting is that this is the perfect example of physiological feedback when you are experiencing something in the neurology and the biology is either telling you it's for you or not for you, but the communication is so black and white here, right? It's like, well, if your mind is telling you not worthy, your penis isn't going to work. And at night, when you're not telling yourself those stories, it's still working.
Mm. Yeah.
So it's when everyone's questioning, well, mind body connection. This is the most in our body and in our external world, right?
Yeah.
So
I think
pretty powerful.
that brings me back to that. You saying that is like that thing of it's not that we can't get an erection, it's how are we stopping ourselves from doing what is innately within us to do. So I think it's like with anything, I talk about this with whether it's with crying, whatever it is, it's like, but this is, if we can do it in our sleep when we're at our most actually awake spiritually, if it's possible within our sleeping state, then it's possible within our waking state. But how are we stopping ourselves from doing what is innate within us to do? It comes, naturally. So it's yeah.
And if a woman in a relationship, how can a woman support a man if, firstly, if they've just met and this happens, secondly, if they're in a relationship and it's happening? Those two.
Yeah, well, at the start, obviously, it depends so much on his reaction to it as well. Like if he hasn't got if he's not comfortable with it happening to him and he reacts in the same way that the guy acted to you, Candice, like it's very challenging for any woman that's been blamed for it to react in a healthy way, no matter how much work she has done on herself. But let's say if it happens to a guy and he doesn't blame her, he's okay with it, then the most optimal way for the woman to support the guy is just be okay with it, and most likely the more comfortable they get together, the more likely it is of happening naturally. And again, that has been my experience. Like if I'm okay with it, I've never got a bad reaction from any woman that I was and communicated with.
I mean, I'm generalizing, but some men have been known to shut down in these moments. So what happens if the man's shutting down? Then what should the woman be saying?
If somebody shuts down, it's hard to get them to, come out of it unless they're ready to come out of it. It's really hard to answer that. I would say the more she doesn't blame herself anyways, because it's bad enough one person getting wrapped into it, but if then she's getting wrapped into it as well, thinking that it's her fault or she's blaming herself, it's going down the spiral together. When, like, if he wants to go down the spiral himself and shut down, then it really is, she can support him, but it's really out of her control, really.
So surely she just puts a bit more makeup on and some sexy lingerie. That's not the answer. Come on. What are you teaching these people?
Duh. Firstly, ain't nobody got time for that. And this is not my own personal life, but I'm asking these questions for whoever's watching because I know people are in these situations. And one other thing is, another question is, when someone reacts, the man reacts angrily to the woman, like his demeanor becomes angry, or what, what do you say in that situation, or how would you manage that? Or, yeah. I mean, I'd be deleting, blocking. Bye.
Yeah. Like, I wouldn't put up with that if it was the other way around. Like I can't give blanket advice because it's going to be so specific. But like if a girl treated me like that, I'd be like, see you later. Like, it's not my problem. Like I'm not the one with the problem here. Why are you taking it out on me?
Yeah. So I think in those situations, it is okay for a woman to say that, to speak her mind without creating more harm on the situation. Would you say?
Well, if the guy is getting angry with her, then if she speaks her mind, probably going to turn into a bit of a fight, but I don't know if it's like that. But
where do you think that kind of rage comes from? Because, I mean, I have had people tell me these situations. So, yeah, where do you think, why would someone, like, I mean, is it the ego is so bruised that the anger has to come up so savagely?
yeah, but it's similar to exactly the same to what we spoke about earlier. Whether the guy is just blaming the girl or whether he's getting angry, it's to make himself feel better. And he obviously does believe that it is the girl's fault, but it's nothing to do with the girl. It's 100% on him. It's whatever way he has constructed his own perception around the situation, which is number one, causing him to not be able to perform sexually in the bedroom, and number two, blaming her. Like it's on him. It's nothing to do with the girl.
Mm.
So I would say, like, obviously, if it happens once and he apologizes for it, then they can work through it, then fair enough. But if it's happening multiple times, then see you later.
And I
Yeah.
think it is that thing where, you know, you talked about earlier, it's like that, you know, however much work we've done on ourselves, and that is the point of this, right? The more work that we do on ourselves, the more we are able to support ourselves or support that person in that. But most of us are living in a taking things personally, and that's where we get into these things. So it's like, you know, if someone's getting angry, there's a potential there to speak to them and go, what is it? You know, what's happening for you? You know, what's going on, and having that sort of calm conversation. But not many people are at a stage where we get to do that. So it is like, let's just backdoor it, go, never see them again. This is the way of the world for 95+% of people. To be able to actually be in a situation like that, where it is an awkward situation, there's people that are triggered there, and to be able to try and turn that around to a conversation of inquiry is very, you know, it's very, very small percentages of people. So I mean, if people are having a one night stand or it's a casual thing or whatever, but the potential is, if you're in long term relationships, then you want to be getting to the point of being able to communicate on this stuff, in, you know, for the sake of the longevity of the relationship. So the
Yeah.
work. Yeah.
So 3 things that you would, 3 steps. What would you say if a man is in this situation? What would be the first 3 steps that he could take to helping himself?
Yeah. I suppose we've talked about not being able to get an erection for most of this podcast so far, but also there's the other side of it where premature ejaculation is a huge issue amongst men. So it's quite different depending on what the guy is experiencing. But let's keep it on the erection stuff.
Wait, no, I would like to know. I would like
Yeah,
to
point
know
two.
why. just yeah, I mean, what I mean, I just thought that was, look, I'm going to display my ignorance because I don't care. But I just thought that was just like a control thing. They're not able to control themselves.
Yeah. But what's behind that? Yeah.
Well, what is? Somebody tell me.
Yeah. Come on. Never just a control thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I'd say
it's a lack of control.
Yeah,
Yeah, go ahead.
the same mechanism that's bringing it to the surface. It's just a different manifestation of it. So it's the same. It's the nerves. Well, there's 3 things really. There's erectile dysfunction, premature ejaculation, and then there's delayed ejaculation. The delayed ejaculation isn't as big or known about because from a macho perspective, it's like, oh, well, I can last half an hour. Isn't that a good thing? Well, it is a good thing until the partner starts saying, well, why can't you orgasm? Like, is there something wrong with me? And it becomes a bit of an issue that way. But societally, it's more accepted. But the lack of control with the premature ejaculation, it's the tension building up in the body and needs to be released ASAP. So it's still anxiety that's driving the experience, and the body wants to, that the primitive brain wants to get out of that experience because it knows something doesn't feel safe. And the fastest way out of it is to just blow the load. But what's really happening is there's a huge amount of tension getting built up in the body it could be days in advance, depending on the situation. Like if it's a once off and the guy is building this up in his head that it's a date he's going on, could be building up days in advance. If it's a guy in a relationship, he's just expecting it to happen because it's just been constantly happening, and he hasn't been able to develop the awareness of his body, specifically around his lower back, sacrum, glutes, kind of pelvic floor area. That's where the tension builds up, and there can be a huge amount of tightening down there, and it's like a volcano, you know. Once the pressure gets too much, it just has no choice but to explode. So,
and could that be excitement and anxiety, but we just label it societally as a bad thing? So it could be excitement, right? And we go, oh God, they couldn't control themselves or whatever. But you know, excitement, anxiety, same.
Potentially. But like if they're having sex every night of the week and the same thing happens over and over again, is it excitement?
They're very excited.
Well, yeah, is it excitement? I get what you mean, to just get it over and done with.
Well, to do it
as a quick form of release.
I can because we've talked about this before, but as a woman, yes, I can do it very quickly. But there's nothing wrong with that yet. For a man, there's something wrong with him being too excited. Whereas for me, it's okay. We're not full partners.
Could you control
I'd want it a bit longer.
Control it if you wanted, Anita. Could you delay it?
I could if I wanted to.
See, that's the difference.
It's like, why would I?
But
why would I? But but that would be through a lot of work, which a guy could also do, right? So it's only a problem whilst we make it a problem.
True. Yeah, I do agree. It's only a problem in the mind, unless.
I mean, the thing, when you say the control part, it could be controlled in theory by putting some thoughts in my head about someone that was really unattractive, potentially, by moving the body to a different position so that it doesn't hit the spot, kind of thing. So I don't know, are we that different as men? You know, these just things, you know, that we're placing as good or bad upon ourselves. Women should be able to come quickly, but men shouldn't. Who made that rule up? I don't know.
Well, yeah, I mean, 2 minutes is too quick.
Sorry.
Tell us more about your rules.
Humanity, for humanity.
So you think for a woman as well, yeah?
No, I mean, look, if you're both 2-minute wonders, find each other, live a happy life, love and light. Okay.
I mean,
if you're not, if you got to put that on your bio on your dating apps or whatever, mate, because like people need to know, because you know.
I'm not on that. I'll have a sign on my head. I'm much more about in real life meetings.
Yeah, you need to find your soulmate. Hi, my name is Anita. I'm only looking for 2 minutes.
I need longer. Swipe left.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, and that's a very small percentage.
Yep.
And I mean, if you're a man and you feel like you can't control it, I guess to really be in your full self is having the choice to control it, having the choice to choose. That's empowerment, right?
Yeah, 100%. That's why I asked Anita as well, because as a teenager, I remember having conversations in dressing rooms and lads would be like, oh, you just need to think of the girl taking a shit and then you won't come. Or think of the really grotesque. Yeah.
I heard that yesterday. I actually heard that yesterday for the first time. That is hilarious.
Wow. That would ruin the whole experience.
Yeah, but obviously this doesn't work.
It would prolong it, love. Be better for you. You don't want 2 minutes.
But
you don't need to know what they're thinking about you.
That's, you know what, you're right. 2 minutes is starting to sound good, actually.
Those thoughts in the mind.
Yeah. Wow. Interesting. I mean, I think anything that takes you away from the present experience with the person
exactly
is you know, I don't know, like the more present and connected I am, the more wonderful the experience. And I know I spent 30 years not being connected, so, and it was just like, where am I, like, what is this, like, you know what I mean? It feels functional unless there's presence and connection for me. So, and if you're having that issue with premature ejaculation, having to go somewhere else to not have the issue, you've lost connection. So again, I think it's really important to look at the problem and give yourself the empowered state of choosing.
And yeah, it is possible to delay it or have choice over ejaculation whilst still staying present. That is one thing that I really found over the years.
Wow.
I don't have to think of the girl taking a shit, or I don't have to think of football or something that's going to take me away from the experience. And I can actually stay in it. Like, so yes, I might need to slow down from time to time, but at the same time, those feelings, that if you can stay present with them as a man, it's actually bliss. It's like having an orgasm without actually ejaculating, but consistently. It's very hard to describe.
Wow.
But if and it takes a lot of time to train the body to release or circulate, let's say, that tension so that it doesn't explode. But that's where the work is, all between the mind stuff and being in touch with the body so that it doesn't explode. That's where the man has more influence over his ejaculation.
I think it was Paulo Coelho, it's one famous author, said, and you can interrupt these words, it said a God or the universe gave us the orgasm so that we could experience a piece of heaven.
Love that.
Yeah.
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 That's
So many good things to
that
come.
makes
So many good things to come.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Amazing conversations. Could go for hours. Any final thoughts? I actually can't. I've got like 10 minutes.
What's on her Tinder profile? 60 minutes plus. Otherwise,
I'm not gonna. I do know people who like that, who need that length, and I'm like, I mean, do you have a life? Do you have things? Just
what if they?
yeah.
What if they orgasm pretty soon? Like if they orgasm after 10 minutes, do they still want to keep going? The girl.
I think so. I think the girl is a greedy girl.
Okay. Yeah, she wants
Yeah.
multiple.
Yeah. I think the girl just wants to, hang out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good for her. Hang out in heaven. Yeah. Oh, this has been so much fun, as always. Thank you so much. Can't wait to do it again. Can't wait to get our minds blown.
Lots of fun. Really.
All right.